I'm going to wrap up. Part of the voting bloc on the right has become the religious voting bloc. And this really started back in the 80s during the Reagan administration when they found out that they could get a large voting bloc of people if they started to make their platform more religious, because the um, religious groups before Ronald Reagan, they weren't like overtly political. They weren't like, we're voting for Republicans only. They would vote based on, middle class stuff. They would base, on policy, all that kind of stuff. But when Reagan came along, him and his administration figured out a way to get more voters. And that was to say, hey, let's start becoming a very religious party and get what at the time was a pretty good majority of people who were in the country that were religious. If you look now, the majority of the country is non-religious. So there are less people now that are practicing religion. There are less people going to church than there were back then. But the MAGA movement and the far right movement now have a lot of their eggs in that religious basket. And there's still, don't get me wrong, a lot of religious people in this country. So they are playing into the psyche of these religious people. And now the play is that we are dying and we have got to fight to keep religion alive in this country. Now, mind you, somebody like me who considers himself an atheist is not somebody that hates religious people. I don't want religious people to say, I'm not religious anymore. If you feel like that is a good route for you in your life and it makes you feel better and it makes you a better person, I'm all for your religion. And I would venture to guess that a lot of people in this country who are not religious are not anti-religion. They're just not religious. So what they're doing, though, is they're turning this into a war. It's a war against people like me. It's a war against people who do not go to church and do not practice these religious thoughts and supposed values, even though a lot of the people that I hear and I see, like, I'll look on Twitter and I'll see in their bio Christian dad or ultra Christian and loves Jesus, but they are spewing some of the worst and most hateful things that I have ever seen. But they have told these people that this is it. This is our final battle. And if you do not battle to the death in some respects, that this is going to all be over for you. Kamala Harris is going to take over this country, and now you are going to be subjected to her rules and her laws, and you are no longer going to be able to practice your religion. That's so absurdly ridiculous that there's absolutely no truth to it. They've been saying that about Biden. Biden's as religious as any other president I've ever seen. He's extremely Catholic. He actually goes to church. But they still sell it. They say it about Biden. They have sold a lot of the American people that Joe Biden is a devil and that he is not a religious person. But, we talk about these religious people. This is a pastor named Robert Henderson in one of these super ultra mega churches. I don't know the name of it. I really don't care. But this is the kind of rhetoric that you are hearing in some of these churches, not all, but some of these churches that, again, if it's just in 1, 2, 3, or 100, this is dangerous and crazy stuff.
I say, even as you told me to say in 2015 against Hillary Clinton, I now declare against Kamala Harris.
Yes. Yes.
This is a war against non-religious people. Well, shouldn't even say non-religious. I don't know that Kamala Harris is religious or non-religious. I think she is. I really don't know. But again, it's This has nothing to do as to whether or not she's religious or not, because again, we already pointed out with Joe Biden, they didn't give a shit that he was religious. They are making Democrats, fellow Americans in this country, not just somebody that they disagree with, but the enemy.
That according to James 1:11, that her campaign is as grass, and that she is even as the flower of the grass, and that the burning, searing, exposing heat of God now causes her campaign and her herself to wither away, and to become as nothing. That there would be exposure from the radiance of who you are, and it would cause, Lord, her campaign to vanish.
All right, he gets in obviously some crazy shit. I don't even know what the fuck he's talking about, but I can guarantee you, not good for Kamala Harris. He does not like her. He does not want her to be the president and wants her to vanish or whatever the fuck it is that he wants her to do. But again, this is crazy, insane rhetoric. And when you get crazy, insane rhetoric like that, what you get is you get crazy, insane voters. And here are a couple of voters that are convinced that there's an evil force around the Democrats and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
I think there's an evil force taking over our country, our world. It's written in the Bible that in the last days this is supposed to happen. So we have to armor ourselves with the armor of Christ, I want to say, and be prepared. We can't do this without Jesus. And this is to be expected. There is certainly an evil force. Evil force.
Right. Ephesians 6, we got to put on the full armor of God. That's right.
Amen.
Yeah, and here's one saying that Donald Trump is working for God.
About Trump that you love so much?
Number one, he's a godly man. He's working for God, for darn sure. Number two, he really cares about us. He cares about us. He cares about what happens to us. He cares about our country. He didn't come in there because he wanted the money. He's got money. He's coming there because he is actually working for God, and he wants to help us, and he wants to get us to he wants to make America great again. And I it's true, but I think he's going to make it even greater, because I don't think, no matter what they try to do to stop him, he's going to come back, because he's working for God and God's on his side.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little part of me that feels sorry for this woman here. First of all, she says that he's not in it for the money. Well, no president's in for the money, because it doesn't pay a whole bunch, unless you are Donald Trump, because there was a report that he made $1.7 billion while he was president, which is illegal. You're not supposed to make money while you're president off your businesses. But this poor lady thinks that God has sent a convicted felon and liable rapist to save our country, and what they're saving our country from, I'm not really sure. There's one last voter that I want to play here. It's not really a religious clip, but these people, these are people who are voting, and this is what concerns me. And again, I don't mind. I want anybody to vote based on what they feel is best for them and their family. What I'd like to hear, and again, it's not up to me whether or not whether or not it's true, whether it's not true, whether I like it, whether I don't like it, but just as an American, and if I were to talk to anybody about why they're voting, and they talk to me about why I'm voting, and we have discussion about it, I'd like to hear some coherent and some honest and true reasons as to why you're voting. But this lady has bought into one of the kookiest, craziest, and non-provable stories that has happened in our schools, and this woman's going to be voting.
Protect them at school. Everybody's against you. These kids are terrified. They have more put into litter boxes in the bathrooms and everything else, instead of teaching our kids. We have no future without our children, and we need to protect them.
I don't know what it is with the over the top pet obsessions with these people where uh, Haitian immigrants who are here legally are now all of a sudden eating pets because Kamala Harris let them in. None of that is true. And they're still rolling with the story that schools have litter boxes in their classes and in their bathrooms because kids now want to identify as cats. There have been zero, I mean, absolutely zero provable stories on that, but it comes out. And not only are just the underground people saying it, but people like Joe Rogan is on his show claiming that that happened until he had to backtrack it. And the way he did it, he was saying that he had a friend whose wife was a teacher and said it was in her classroom. And it turned out that that just was not true. So now you got people going around and saying insane, crazy conspiracy thing. Conspiracy theorists used to be, they were kind of the people that you would see on the subway in New York, and you distance yourself from them and go, oh boy, just look down, don't look them in the eye, just be quiet, don't engage, stay away, get to your stop, get the fuck off the subway. But no, now these people are mainstream. Not only are they mainstream, they're running for president. They are already in Congress. They are traveling with the president. Laura Loomer is one of the 9/11 conspiracy theorists. She didn't believe that that happened, like Baby Juggernaut says. Conspiracy theorist. You know, I don't know, man. It's just, this is getting really out of control. Scary it has become, but I do think at this point, I really do, and I'm not sure in 7 weeks this is going to change, but America is exhausted. We're just done with this. And, you know, it's going to come down to either what I believe, and what I'm saying here doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but this is what I believe, is that true patriots are going to look at Donald Trump and JD Vance and their rhetoric and what they say and the people that they hang around and go, no way. There's absolutely no way. Not only am I not voting for you, but I am going to vote for Kamala Harris to make sure you don't go in. Am I agreeing with everything Kamala Harris and Tim Walz says? Nope. Do I like their policies? I don't. Would I ever vote Democrat? Nope. I never would. But guess what? I want my old party back. I want a real Republican Party. So I'm going to do my patriotic duty. And I am going to make sure I do everything that this administration comes nowhere near me, comes nowhere near my wife, my daughter, my mother, my sons, my friends, my family, anybody, because this is beyond outrageous. What we are doing is we are voting for people who are buying into and spreading conspiracy theories to scare people who just don't know any better. And that, to me, is egregious. Then you're also going to have the people who are going to say, I ain't voting for Kamala Harris, but I'm sure shit ain't voting for that guy. I'll take those guys too. And women, whoever it is, if you're not on board with this nonsense, because that's what it is. It's just pure nonsense. If you're not on board with that, I'm going to give you a half Patriot star. Now, you may not give a fuck about my stars, and I don't blame you, because you get nothing out of it, but it's just, you're here watching, I'm here talking. This is what I'm saying. So, but I don't know. What do you guys think? What is what I'm saying incorrect? Is there anything that I'm saying that resonates with you? Is there anything that I'm saying that you disagree with or you don't agree with? Put it in the comments, on the show. You can email me at runshousepodcast@gmail.com. Give me your opinions there.